Chapter 15, Free Speech, Official Pressure, the case of the visiting foreign student. Started because a campus newspaper had an article where a foreign student was critical of his home country. Um, the student stated he had no remorse, and but U.S. government officials were kind of concerned that the article might put him at risk in his home country because certain countries don't have, aren't as, free with speech as we are. We can be critical. Other countries you can't have that luxury. Um, the situation was Catherine Lynn basically was a new like reporting intern at the Minnesota Daily, which was um, a newspaper at the University of Minnesota. Um, she was looking, basically she was new and was trying to prove that she could she could carry her weight and make good and citing articles. So she was looking at online events at the University of Minnesota, and she found one where it was basically a program of a group of North African, college students were visiting. So it was the exchange program. The countries were Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, and Tunisia. Um, the students were to spend a month on the campus of, Minnesota, the University of Minnesota, and they were going to learn about U.S. politics, policies, and people. Basically just, kind of be immersed in all things U.S. Um, Lynn approached her editors with this idea to highlight this group and talk about it, and so they were already thinking about it and had heard of this this program, so they already gave her the green light. Um, she got permission and interviewed multiple students from the program. At first, on her first draft, she focused as the group as a whole, so was trying to talk to everybody and interview a lot of people. Um, and the editors kind of approached her and were like, "Hey, maybe try from a different angle." They also suggested maybe spotlighting a specific member, with an interesting background and who would be, you know, interesting to hear from. Um, she thought that was a good idea, so she moved forward. And she had somebody in mind, Ashraf, and that's who she decided she would be move in depth with. Um, they met in a coffee shop, and from the jump, she was like, "Hey, I'm going to be recording and taking notes. Is that okay?" And he expressed that was fine and gave us consent, so that's what she did. Um, he was very critical of Tunisia, and he also talked about his father's involvement in politics, and his father was the opposition of the main people in power. Um, and he was very critical of the education system, comparing it to the United States education system. Um, so obviously those are some comments that you know in a country that is not totally open with free speech, there could be some backlash. So the editor in chief, Holly Miller, was approached by the UN program directors, stating that they wished that they hoped that she would take the article offline, to go ahead and not even let those issues take place. Um, and she was also approached by a higher up in the U.S. government, calling her and called her unpatriotic and didn't want to help her country. And she was like, Holly basically didn't want to be bullied and allowed them to force her to take her off. But then she had to step back and kind of analyze the situation because he could be indeed at risk. So the compromise was they took his last name off the article later on, and they also had like an edit talking about why they did that.